Hello and welcome to the fiscal year 2024 HMIS Data Standards Training. My name is Megan Copenhaver. I'm an HMIS specialist with West Virginia Coalition to End Homelessness, also known as WVCEH. WVCEH is the HMIS lead agency for the West Virginia Balance of State Continuum of Care. In this presentation, we will cover the fiscal year 2024 HMIS data standard changes, as well as how these changes will impact both data collection and data entry. Data standards. The HMIS data standards provide communities with baseline data collection requirements developed by each federal partner. HUD updates the HMIS data standards every few years in order to improve its ability to collect and analyze gaps in homeless services across the nation. Changes to the data standards are published as a pair of documents known as the HUD Data Dictionary and the HUD Data Manual. The fiscal year 2024 changes incorporated feedback from persons with lived expertise and stakeholders. The fiscal year 2024 changes are a result of an effort to review all documents with an eye towards more client-centric changes. For example, client refuse will be changed to client prefers not to answer in all pick lists. The release of the 2024 HMIS Data Dictionary and its companion Data Standards Manual are the documentation of requirements for the programming and use of all HMIS systems and comparable database systems. We will provide the link to both of those at the end of this presentation. So, what's our agenda for today? We're going to be going over some updated wording, some added elements, text box fields, and dependent logic. So, updated wording. The DV domestic violence victims has now been changed to DV survivors of domestic violence. Client location has been changed to enrollment COC. Client refuse has been changed to client prefers not to answer. There's also been a new element. Translation assistance needed is a new element added to assist COCs with identifying if clients need translation assistance, and if so, what language. There's also been a pick list update. So with destinations, headers are now updated for each type of destination. Instead of one header with an extended list of options, there will be two headers. The previous list was temporary and permanent housing situations, and the new headers are temporary housing situations and permanent housing situations. There's also been a pick list value updated from emergency shelter, including hotel or motel paid for with emergency shelter voucher, or RHY funded host home shelter, to emergency shelter, including hotel or motel paid for with emergency shelter voucher, host home shelter. There's also a new dependency when the pick list value rental by client with ongoing housing subsidy, called rental subsidy type, is selected. Here's an example of that update. As you can see, there are the different labels: homeless situations, institutional situations, temporary housing situations, and permanent housing situations, as well as other listed at the bottom. Previously, the temporary and permanent made one list rather than two. When a destination is selected with a subsidy, the following question will appear. So as you can see, the destination, rental by client with ongoing housing subsidy. We see below there is if others specify, and underneath that, rental subsidy type. This is that dependent logic we said that we were going to go over in our agenda. The next thing we're going to discuss is prior living situation. This is actually going to be similar to the destinations that we just covered. Same with the headers, the pick list values, and that dependency, so that question that's being added. The next update we have is race and ethnicity. So the previous pick list value was American Indian, Alaska Native, Indigenous, Asian, or Asian American, Black African American or African, Native Hawaiian or Pacific Islander, white, client doesn't know, client refused, data not collected. There is also a secondary race question and a separate ethnicity question. The new pick list values are American Indian, Alaska Native, or Indigenous, Asian or Asian American, Black, African American or African, Hispanic, Latina, Middle Eastern or North African, Native Hawaiian or Pacific Islander, white, client doesn't know, client prefers not to answer, data not collected. Multiple fields can be selected. To select multiple values, you'll hold down the Control or the Command key and click on each value. There's also a text field option that can be utilized if the individual's race and ethnicity is not listed. The gender pick list is also an update that you will see in the system. The previous pick list values were female, male, a gender other than singularly female or male, transgender, questioning, client doesn't know, client refused, data not collected. The new pick list values are woman, girl of child, man, boy of child, culturally specific identity, two-spirit, transgender, non-binary, questioning, different identity, client doesn't know, client prefers not to answer, data not collected. Multiple fields can be selected. To select multiple values, hold down the Control or Command key and click on each value. There is also a text field option that can be utilized if the individual's gender is not listed. Gender does not have to match legal documents, and clients may not be asked about medical history or other information to try to determine the person's gender. Simply asking which of these genders best describe how you identify is appropriate and focuses on the person's own internal knowledge of their gender. Here's an example of that update in the system. And here's a list of the descriptions for each gender option. Woman, girl of child. Client identifies as a woman or girl in the case of a child under the age of 18. Man, boy of child. Client identifies as a man or boy in the case of a child under the age of 18. Culturally specific identity. Client identifies with an identity that is exclusive to a particular culture. For example, two-spirit refers to a Native North American gender identity. Transgender. Client identifies with a transgender history, experience, or identity. Non-binary, client does not identify exclusively as a man or a woman. Questioning, clients who may be unsure may be exploring or may not relate to or identify with a gender identity at this time. Note that client doesn't know is different than questioning. Questioning is about exploring one's gender identity. Different identity, client identifies with another identity that is not listed as a response. Use text box for details. Client doesn't know. Client doesn't know should only be selected when a client does not know their gender from among the responses. Client prefers not to answer should only be selected when a client chooses not to identify their gender from among the responses. Data not collected, use this response if the staff does not ask the client to provide their gender. Data collection, a client-centered approach. Please remember to collect data with a client-centered approach. Only record self-reported information for each individual served. If the individual doesn't associate with their legal name, the name entered into HMIS should reflect the name the individual identifies with, unless their legal name is required by the funder. Help the individual you are serving select as many options that they identify with. Provide all options to the individual you are serving. If they prefer not to provide it or say they don't know, do not select any response other than client doesn't know or client prefers not to answer on the client's behalf. When enrolling an individual who already has a record in HMIS, verify that the information is complete and accurately reflects how the client identifies and correct it if it does not. Staff observations should never be used to collect information. The information we covered can be found on the HUD Exchange website. Here's a link to that website along with other helpful resources. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this presentation. If you have any questions or concerns, please email us at hmishelp@wvch.org or visit us on our website, wvboshmis.org. Thank you so much.